Before we kick off, doctoral graduates, ready for it? Let's do the chomp. Ready? Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, boom. Outstanding. Gator doctoral graduates, I promise you, there's no place I would rather be today than right now with you celebrating this achievement. You might say, why, Brian? Well, because graduation is the ultimate celebration of hard work, of dedication. And as doctoral students, you've reached the pinnacle of academic degree completion. Now, for the graduates here, as well as the guests and family, by a show of hands, if you recall anything a graduation speaker ever said, raise your hand. Okay, not a lot. Well, I want to change that. I seriously do, and here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to change it because I don't want to be your graduation speaker. I want to be your graduation storyteller. Let that sink in for a second. I want to tell you 3 stories, and as I share them, I hope they make as big of an impact such that you want to tell these stories, each of the 3, to your children, to your grandchildren, to people you love and care about. With so much resting on your shoulders, you are the world's most educated and knowledgeable people. Each story is going to focus on a theme I see as critical for your success in your future endeavors, particularly in a world where we see lots of division and strife. Those 3 themes are resolve, temperance, and integrity. RTI. Now, I want to say these together so the folks in Athens and Tallahassee can hear us. Are you ready? Come on, are you ready? Here we go. Theme number 1 is outstanding. Theme number 2 is, and theme number 3 is. Okay, here we go. RTI. Now, I've deployed to war zones in Afghanistan and Iraq. I know what it's like to face adversity. And throughout history, we have seen examples of soldiers overcome diversity and adversity. Consider the bravery of the soldiers who stormed the beaches at Normandy. You see a picture right there. Some of the folks on that beach were Gator graduates, younger than you, seeing their very first combat. Now, the determination to show resolve by turning adversity into victory brings us to story number 1. So there once was this old mule. He was nearly useless, and he had fallen into a well, and a farmer heard this mule struggling, but sadly, after assessing the situation, decided neither the mule nor this well were worth saving. So he called his friends to come together, his neighbors, to haul dirt and put that mule out of his misery. Well, initially, the mule was frantic as that dirt poured down upon him, but as the dirt rained down, it suddenly dawned on the mule that every time a shovel of dirt landed on his back, he should shake it off and step up. That's exactly what he did. As more dirt was shoveled, he'd shake it off and step up. There we go. No matter how distressing the situation got, the mule put panic aside. He showed resolve, and he kept shaking it off and stepping up. Well, it wasn't long before that mule, battered and exhausted, but having shown resolve, stepped triumphantly out of the well. I want you to think about that. The piles of dirt that rained down upon that mule, something that seemed like it would bring about his demise, because of how he chose to handle the adversity with resolve, he would shake it off and step up. Now, Gator graduates, you're finishing your doctoral degrees, yes? You know what it feels like to be in the well every now and then, so to speak, don't you? You do. And sometimes you know what it feels like for dirt and those unfortunate events to fall down and feel like they're burying us. But look at this picture. This is a picture of Specialist Decker. She's a young mother on the other side of the globe, away from her two small children, every day in Iraq turning wrenches in 118-degree heat. But just like her, if you face challenges and respond to them with resolve, the adversity that seeks to bury us, that adversity almost always has the potential to give you the chance to shake it off and step up. Let's shift from resolve now to a story of temperance. Now, this is a word that's often used to describe what we choose to refrain from doing. You know it's true, you and I make choices every single day that impact our professional and personal life. It's easy to say that our everyday choices don't make a big difference, but I promise you, many great thinkers, they would suggest otherwise. The bonds of trust that we forge with family, friends, and colleagues, those bonds of trust are strengthened or broken by how we choose to treat other people and how much we decide to embrace temperance. And that reminds me of a tremendous story that brings some wisdom. There once was a boy who came to his grandfather for advice. That boy had been betrayed by a close friend. He was determined to get back at his friend for the injustice that had been done to him. Seeing the boy's anger, his grandfather said that he too once had been betrayed by a close friend. He knew the great pain that comes from being taken advantage of, from deceit. And so seeing the agony on his grandson's face, he looked him in the eye and he said, "Your two wolves are doing battle." The boy looked puzzled. His grandfather said, "Each of us has inside two wolves. One wolf is full of anger, full of envy and resentment, and that wolf is driven by arrogance, driven by ego. But that other wolf is good. That wolf seeks peace, reconciliation. He's driven by benevolence, humility, and compassion. How does that wolf flourish? He flourishes on hope, empathy, and faith." Well, the boy sat silent for a moment, contemplating these words his grandfather shared. And he asked with concern, "Grandfather, which of my two wolves is going to win?" His grandfather answered, "The wolf you choose to feed. The one you choose to feed is the one that will win." Gator graduates, I assure you, all of humanity has the exact same choice. I'm sure you've heard the following phrase, but let it sink in, particularly as you've completed your doctoral degrees. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. Each of us is going to be hurt by somebody we trust. Acts of betrayal, disloyalty, and deceit, they happen to everyone at various times in life. But never, ever forget, Gator graduates, we always have the choice on which wolf to feed. Yes, we do. And I assure you, embracing temperance is one of the best ways to feed the wolf that will lead to a life of significance and honor. Now, having heard one story on resolve and one on temperance, we shift to our third and final story on integrity. There once was an elderly king, and sadly, this king had no heir. You can imagine he was quite concerned. What's going to become of my kingdom? Well, interestingly enough, this king had an amazing talent for growing flowers. He loved flowers. In fact, so much he decided that he was going to let flowers decide. Flowers, who would be the heir to the throne. This was against all the advice of his advisors. And the king decided, I will give each of my subjects one seed. And whoever can grow the most beautiful flower from that seed will inherit the throne. Interesting idea, yes? Very interesting. Well, a young girl named Sarah, she had always been mesmerized by the king's gardens, and Sarah, she was determined. She was going to grow the most beautiful flower in the kingdom. So off to work she went, planting her seed with care, precision. She's leaving nothing to chance. But after weeks of great care, nothing came up from the soil. Poor Sarah. She showed dedication and resolve, but she had nothing to show for her work but a flower pot full of dirt. That was it. Well, the big day comes. Outside the palace gates, there are flowers everywhere, but Sarah, she didn't want to leave the house. Her dad said, "No, wait a minute, Sarah. You did your best. You gave it your best efforts. Grab that flower pot. We're going to go down to the palace." There's thousands of flowers outside those gates. And imagine Sarah's sadness when all she's doing is standing there with a pot of soil. Well, soon the king walks through the palace gates. He's taking great care, inspecting all those flowers outside the palace gates. Soon, he actually made his way to where Sarah was standing. To her astonishment, the king actually walked up to her and said, "Dear girl, why is your flower pot empty?" She said, "Your Majesty, I don't know. I did the best I could. I took great care. I showed dedication, but I have nothing but this flower pot of dirt. I failed. I failed you. I failed our kingdom." The king said, "Child, look around you. Look around you and tell me what you see." She said, "Your Majesty, I'm looking around and I see all these beautiful flowers." The king said, "That's not what I see. Instead of beautiful flowers, I see lies. I see an ocean of deceit. You see, prior to distributing those seeds, each one to my subjects, I had each and every one of them roasted. There's no way anything could have grown from the seeds I distributed. Every flower you see outside these gates is a lie. Every flower is a betrayal. But you, Sarah, with your empty flower pot, you've shown faithfulness, you've shown loyalty, but most importantly, you've shown integrity. You, young Sarah, are the heir to the throne, and you will one day rule this kingdom." Gator graduates, I assure you, the indispensable quality for outstanding leadership is integrity. Indispensable. And going forward, in each of your fields of inquiry, I encourage you to take young Sarah's example to heart and do all that you can to ensure that integrity proudly and powerfully blooms in all of your endeavors. I'm going to close with this. It's my hope and my prayer that these three stories will help you recall the value of resolve, temperance, and integrity as you strive for a life of consequence, for a life well lived. In Iraq and Afghanistan, I saw the lives of many young people cut short. I prayed over many dead soldiers, male and female, and these young people never had the chance to make our world better through resolve and through temperance and integrity. Look at this picture. As I flew into Afghanistan, as you can see, it sure doesn't look like Gainesville, does it? Not even close. Look at this picture. I'm a world away from a Krishna lunch in the Plaza of the Americas. And as a lifelong Floridian, look at this picture. There was all this cold white stuff on the ground. I didn't know what to make of it. But I did know why I was there as an Army chaplain. It was my job to help our service members deal with the mental anguish that comes with combat. And I knew at some point, I would come across someone who needed to hear the encouraging words of resolve and temperance and integrity. This is Casey Allison. I was the first chaplain to visit Casey after he was wounded in combat. A British soldier had stepped on a landmine. Without even thinking twice, Casey rushed in to get that British soldier out of the kill zone, and Casey himself stepped on a landmine. He lost his leg, and he lost a hand. As you can imagine, it's hard to know how to begin a discussion with someone who has experienced such trauma at the age of 20 years old. But as a chaplain, I usually begin with small talk. I asked him what his name was and where he was from. He said, "Hey, chaplain, my name is Casey, and I'm from Oregon." So I'm wanting to develop some more rapport with Casey. I said, "Wow, Casey, which of the 2 universities in Oregon do you cheer for? Are you an Oregon Duck? Are you an Oregon State Beaver?" He said, "Chaplain, I don't cheer for either one of those teams. I'm a Florida Gator." On the other side of the world, trying to fight back some tears, I said to this brave Marine, "Casey, I'm a Gator too." As we both shed some tears, Casey said, "Sir, this is a picture of my infant daughter, Ava. I've never even held her yet, and she almost lost her dad yesterday." And as Casey laid there in bed, having lost a leg and a hand, and contemplating he'd almost missed out on life with his daughter, Ava, I told him the story about deciding which wolf to feed. Anger, resentment, having lost a leg and an arm, or the wolf that sees his close call with death as a chance to live a life sharing love and hope. I told Casey, that Gator fan, the story of showing resolve by shaking off life's setbacks and stepping up to be the best father a daughter has ever known. All the while, though, displaying the integrity that will make little Ava the proudest daughter in the world. Gator grads, that's exactly what Casey did. Here's a picture of our wounded Gator fan just after returning from Afghanistan with his 2-month-old daughter, Ava, and his wife, Mia. And here is a picture of Casey being promoted to corporal in the Marine Corps. Gator doctoral grads, RTI, resolve, temperance, and integrity. When you're confronted with challenge, show resolve. In the face of anger and resentment, please call on temperance. And in all endeavors, let integrity be your guide. Can you imagine a world full of RTI doctoral Gator grads? This would be good stuff. Professors at universities, scientists at research institutes, leaders in government, education, and industry. Imagine Gator doctoral graduates pioneering new technologies, new medical treatments, discovering new knowledge. I'm asking you, let that future of Gator doctoral RTI grads start here with us, the few, the proud, the Gator doctoral grads. Happy holidays, and go Gators.